I had Sue from the newspaper ask me that question. She's like, how's your life changed? What are you doing now? I'm like,
Richard Goodall stunned the world with his golden-voiced rendition of Don't Stop Believin' on America's Got Talent, introducing himself modestly as a janitor with a fiancée named Angie. But buried beneath that heartwarming image was a chapter of love and loss that America never saw coming. Before Angie, Richard shared 3 decades of life, laughter, and unconditional devotion with his late wife, a woman whose identity remains private, but whose story is deeply etched in his soul. Their 30-year marriage was built on shared traditions. Every Christmas morning, every Valentine's Day dinner, every simple moment woven into a quiet, profound bond. The couple remained inseparable through the highs and lows of life until June 19, 2021, when cancer ended their journey. The emotional impact of this loss was captured in a heartbreaking Instagram post from Richard, who wrote, "I'm so sorry. I did my best, but my best wasn't good enough. Cancer is like getting punched in the gut, falling to the ground, then told to get back up and start all over." That raw expression of grief showed us a man not just mourning a partner, but reeling from the collapse of his entire world. Her death wasn't just a footnote in his journey, it was the emotional backdrop that made his AGT performance so soul-stirring. Every note he sang carried the weight of that void, and every trembling lyric was filled with the echoes of a love that had once anchored him. Behind the curtain, this wasn't just a janitor singing his heart out, it was a widower trying to find his voice again in the silence left behind by someone irreplaceable. His story reminds us that sometimes, what moves us most isn't just the talent we see, but the heartbreak we never do. While America's Got Talent portrayed Richard as a humble man with a hopeful future, what many didn't know was that just a few short years ago, he stood at a gravesite saying goodbye to the love of his life, a goodbye that would change everything he thought he knew about himself and his music. Richard's wife had fought cancer with unwavering strength, and through her entire battle, Richard stayed by her side, offering support, prayers, and the comfort of his voice, which had always been her favorite sound. When she passed away in 2021, the world saw only a social media post, but behind that post was a man completely gutted. The line, "I did my best, but my best wasn't good enough," wasn't just poetic sorrow, it was a desperate confession of helplessness from a man who had given everything he had to save someone he loved. The message hit thousands of followers like a ton of bricks because it wasn't curated, it wasn't polished, it was grief in its rawest form. His community in Terre Haute knew the extent of his heartbreak, many of whom had seen him push through work as a janitor while quietly carrying that sorrow like a ghost. That emotional weight didn't just disappear when the AGT cameras rolled. Instead, it infused every lyric he sang, and whether the audience knew it or not, they were hearing a voice molded by mourning. This wasn't just a performer with natural talent, this was a man singing because he had nothing left to say, and no other way to say it. Richard's journey to the AGT stage wasn't just about dreams, it was about healing. Every time he closed his eyes on that stage, he was remembering the face of the woman who used to tell him, "Sing that one again just for me." Not long after the devastating loss of his wife, Richard surprised everyone by reappearing on social media with a fresh smile and a new companion, Angie. On August 25, 2021, just 2 months after the anniversary of his wife's passing, he posted a photo captioned "Fun night with Mylene at Taco Tequilas," and the comments section lit up. Some were thrilled that he had found happiness again, while others questioned if it was too soon. But for Richard, that picture marked more than just a date night. It was a declaration that he was ready to embrace life again, no matter how hard it was to let go of the past. This transition wasn't easy, and he never once pretended it was. He carried the weight of judgment alongside his grief, but he chose to keep walking forward. Angie represented a new chapter, not a replacement. Through photos, small captions, and quiet moments of joy, Richard began to rebuild not just his social life, but his sense of self. The man who once posted cryptic messages of loss now began sharing little slices of humor, music, and companionship. That shift showed something profound. Grief doesn't erase our capacity to love again, it deepens it. What America saw on AGT was a man supported by a loving partner, but what they didn't realize was how hard-won that love was. Richard had clawed his way out of darkness, not by forgetting the past, but by choosing to believe he still had a future. And in every performance, there's a part of Angie's smile and his late wife's memory, both cheering him on from different corners of his heart. In a world that often rushes people through grief, Richard showed us the strength it takes to love again when your heart has already been shattered once. When Richard Goodall stepped onto the AGT stage, his humble narrative as a janitor who sings in solitude with his radio captured America's heart. But what wasn't shared on the broadcast is that he isn't just a man with a voice. He's the frontman of a local Terre Haute band named Manipa. This wasn't a secret he was hiding maliciously, but one the show simply didn't highlight, perhaps to maintain the simplicity of the everyman narrative. However, the truth reveals something far more compelling. Richard wasn't some untrained novice singing in isolation. He was a passionate performer honing his talent in local venues, bar stages, and weekend gigs. Manipa wasn't just a side hobby either. It became a second family, a creative outlet, and a source of community praise well before AGT knew his name. This band of local musicians helped sharpen his skill set and boosted his confidence through each performance. Their small-scale fame in Indiana meant they were well acquainted with modest crowds and real-world rejection, building the kind of performance grit that no televised competition could teach overnight. By portraying Richard as a complete unknown, AGT unintentionally erased a rich tapestry of local artistry that had nurtured his voice long before the golden buzzer moment. And yet this band backstory doesn't diminish his authenticity, it amplifies it. Because while some contestants chase clout, Richard was chasing harmony, weekend after weekend, bar after bar, believing in his voice long before the rest of us did. Long before the AGT spotlight, it was a single TikTok video filmed at a middle school that lit the fuse of Richard Goodall's viral explosion, proving once again how one heartfelt moment can launch an unknown talent into national consciousness. In the clip, Richard stands in the middle of a modest school gymnasium, holding nothing but a microphone and the courage to sing his favorite Journey song, and what happened next was pure magic. The video took off across social media platforms, amassing views by the millions and striking chords of emotion with viewers around the world, who saw more than just a janitor. They saw a man pouring his entire soul into a song. That performance didn't just go viral, it rewrote his destiny. Suddenly, Manipa found themselves flooded with performance requests at bars and community events, and Richard, the man who once sang alone in his room, was now the voice every local venue wanted to hear. Within weeks, the band was fully booked for July gigs, including Saturday nights at Archie's Sports Bar. Richard posted with disbelief and gratitude, and just like that we're booked every weekend in July. Thank you to the band for their awesome hard work, and to our manager for securing the gigs. That surge of demand revealed not only the internet's appetite for authenticity, but also the pent-up admiration that had always existed in his hometown. Before AGT ever rolled the cameras, TikTok had already crowned him their singing janitor, and in doing so, gave him the confidence and momentum to finally believe his dream wasn't just possible, it was already underway. As the viral fame blossomed into local legend status, Richard Goodall's weekends became a flurry of gigs, sound checks, and raucous applause, revealing a parallel life he'd been quietly building outside of his school janitorial duties. What began as a humble video soon turned into a fast-moving snowball of opportunities, and with his band Manipa, Richard stepped into a rhythm of near-constant performing. From Archie's Sports Bar to community festivals, every setlist he sang was a moment he had long dreamed of. Yet beneath the joy of the stage lights was a hidden struggle. Balancing his full-time job, grief recovery, and a sudden taste of fame was no easy feat. Richard wrote heartfelt notes to fans on Facebook, thanking them for showing up, tipping generously, and sharing his music with others. He wasn't chasing fame for its own sake. He was chasing something far more intimate, the dream of feeling heard. Each lyric he belted, especially Journey classics, struck a new chord of meaning, because he wasn't just covering songs, he was telling stories from the depth of his own. Unlike polished TV stars with entourages, Richard often drove himself to gigs, hauled his own equipment, and shook hands with every fan who waited to speak with him. His performances didn't feel like concerts, they felt like reunions. By the time AGT contacted him, Richard was already living the musician's life on his own terms. He didn't need validation from Hollywood. He had it from the people who lined up at the bar, whispered "that's him," and requested one more song before closing time. That kind of love, the grassroots, built from scratch kind, isn't something TV can fabricate. It's lived, earned, and sung from the heart. Whispers swirled through Indiana bars and AGT forums alike. Would Richard Goodall bring his band Manipa to the AGT finals stage? Though nothing official had been confirmed, speculation soared after one of his bandmates casually hinted in an interview that producers had shown interest in a collaborative performance. Fans from Terre Haute immediately latched onto the idea, flooding social media with messages like "Manipa on the big stage, please," and "let the boys rock with him one more time." But beyond the hopeful rumors was a deeper question. Could AGT embrace Richard's full story, not just the stripped-down version of a janitor with a dream, but a seasoned performer with a support system behind him? Manipa wasn't just a backing band, they were brothers in arms who had witnessed Richard's lowest lows and watched him claw his way toward every high note he now sang on stage. Including them in a final performance wouldn't just showcase his vocals, it would spotlight loyalty, endurance, and the magic that blooms from community. Imagine the energy if Richard took the stage not as a lone underdog, but surrounded by the musicians who helped him believe again when all he had was grief and a guitar. That performance could redefine how AGT frames talent, not as a solo fairy tale, but as a chorus of resilience. Whether it happens or not, the very idea has already inspired thousands, proving that Richard's story was never meant to be sung alone. While America's Got Talent generously covered Richard Goodall's basic travel expenses for his performances, it was the grassroots movement back in Terre Haute, Indiana that ensured his journey was truly worry-free. Led by local resident Chris Bond, a GoFundMe campaign was launched with the singular goal of supporting Richard beyond the basics, covering not just flights and hotels, but ensuring he had family by his side, meals during long filming days, and peace of mind as he stepped into the biggest moment of his life. The fundraiser struck a chord with the community, raising an astounding $15,000 by June 9th, just days after launching on May 30th, thanks to the generosity of 382 individual donors. These weren't faceless benefactors, these were neighbors, former students, co-workers, and fans who saw in Richard the embodiment of perseverance and humility. His first trip to AGT had been solo, a man on his first ever flight, navigating airports and LA streets alone. But this time his return would be different. He'd come back with his support system intact, buoyed by love that went far beyond stage lights and judges' praise. In a world where many viral stars are forgotten as quickly as they trend, Richard's community made sure he felt remembered, respected, and deeply rooted. They weren't just funding a contestant, they were funding hope, representation, and the dream that someone just like them could make it big. That outpouring revealed a deeper truth. Real success isn't measured in television ratings, but in how far your voice carries after the cameras stop rolling. If Richard's story has touched your heart even half as much as it touched his hometown, now's your moment to give it voice. Hit that like button and subscribe for more unbelievable stories that remind us of what really matters. And if you believe in the power of community, drop a comment below. Keep singing. Let's flood this space with encouragement for every unsung hero waiting for their turn in the spotlight. In August 2022, Richard Goodall experienced a dream scenario most aspiring singers can only imagine. He was invited to share the stage with Rudy Cardenas, a finalist from American Idol, during a live performance of Don't Stop Believin'. The event wasn't broadcast, but for those in attendance, it was nothing short of magic. Rudy had seen the viral TikTok of Richard's school gym performance, and was so impressed that he personally reached out, inviting Richard to perform live with him. As the crowd buzzed in anticipation, Rudy introduced Richard with electrifying words. "There is a singing janitor from right here in Terre Haute, and when I saw his video, I couldn't believe it was real. But I'm telling you, it is." That moment validated Richard not only as a viral sensation, but as a vocalist worthy of sharing the stage with professionals. When they began singing, something clicked. Their voices harmonized in a way that felt effortless, as if destiny had been waiting for this moment. Richard stood there, not as a background act, but as a peer, a performer who belonged. The crowd erupted, cell phones lit up, and Richard's name once again rippled through social media. Afterward, Richard expressed his gratitude in an Instagram video, thanking the Drake family, the band, and his hometown friends for making it happen. That performance, though not part of his AGT journey, was a landmark moment. It proved that he could hold his own in professional circles. More than that, it proved that the world wasn't just humoring a janitor with a nice voice. They were welcoming a true artist. Long before the golden buzzer echoed through the AGT auditorium, Richard Goodall tried his luck with another major show, The Voice. He submitted a virtual audition, singing the very same song that would later make him famous, Don't Stop Believin'. But the response he received was a devastating blow. A generic rejection email stating he wouldn't move forward. For most people, that would have been the end of the road. Richard was heartbroken, and briefly questioned if the years of praise he'd received from friends and strangers meant anything at all. He even shared the news with fans on Instagram, admitting that he felt invisible, writing, "Just so everyone knows, I'm not worthy of The Voice. but I'll try for AGT. Regular people just don't cut it in this world. That line hit home for thousands who knew exactly what it meant to feel overlooked, despite giving your all. But Richard didn't let that disappointment define him. Instead, he used it as fuel, stepping into the AGT audition with nothing to lose and everything to prove. And when he opened his mouth to sing, the world didn't just listen, they roared in response. The rejection from The Voice became a poetic twist, a reminder that one no doesn't mean the end. It just means you haven't found the right stage yet. Richard's journey reminds us that the gatekeepers don't always get it right. Sometimes the real judges are the people whose lives you touch with your voice. And for Richard, the verdict was clear. America said yes. The true measure of Richard Goodall's rise to fame wasn't just in the crowd applause or internet likes. It was in the moment Steve Perry, the legendary lead singer of Journey, saw Richard's performance and typed out a comment that would forever change his life. After watching the viral TikTok of Richard belting out "Don't Stop Believin'" in that school gym, Perry posted, "I love this," a simple line that carried enormous weight. For Richard, who had spent years idolizing Journey and drawing personal strength from their music, those 3 words felt like a divine affirmation. His response, almost trembling in its humility, was filled with gratitude. "Love your music, sir. Thank you for commenting. This means so much to me." That moment signaled not only industry recognition but spiritual validation, proof that his journey was not only worthwhile but resonating with the very artists who shaped his voice. And Steve Perry wasn't alone. Journey's official TikTok account reposted the video, further boosting Richard's visibility and adding a layer of legitimacy that few viral sensations ever achieve. For a man once told he wasn't worthy of The Voice, this moment proved the opposite. It shattered the illusion that dreams are only reserved for the polished or preordained and reminded us all that authenticity still matters. Richard didn't need a record deal to get noticed by his hero. All he needed was raw passion, a microphone, and the courage to sing like the whole world was listening. And finally, it was. While viewers of America's Got Talent saw Richard's audition, his backstory, and the judges' praise, what the show never aired was just how early and intensely the AGT ecosystem had been rooting for him, even before he stepped foot on stage. Long before the episode premiered, Howie Mandel had already posted a TikTok reacting to Richard's viral video, writing at the bottom, "This guy needs to be on AGT." At first, Richard didn't believe it was real. He thought the accounts must be fake, the video a deep fake or prank, but then confirmation came in waves. It was really Howie, really the official AGT TikTok reposting his performance, really the producers reaching out. This revelation makes Richard's story even more remarkable, because it wasn't just a lucky audition or a random talent find. It was a carefully watched rise fueled by social media momentum and fan demand. Yet none of this was shown in the episode itself. The TV version framed Richard as a humble janitor taking a chance, true but incomplete. What we didn't see was the behind-the-scenes orchestration, the digital groundswell that all but begged AGT to let him in. This hidden layer doesn't tarnish his story, it elevates it. Because even with all the social buzz and influencer backing, it was still Richard's voice, trembling with emotion and honed by pain, that won the crowd and judges. And that's the part AGT couldn't script, no matter how much planning went into it. His truth, his soul, his song. Richard Goodall's journey wasn't just about a golden buzzer or a viral video. It was about surviving heartbreak, trusting his gift, and finding a community that sang back. From losing his wife to standing beside legends, he reminded the world that talent doesn't always wear a spotlight, it sometimes pushes a mop. His rise proves that you can carry grief and glory in the same breath, and that every note can carry a life's worth of stories. Up next, you won't believe what Richard's bandmates just revealed about their future, and why his story might only be beginning.